Hey class, how you doing? Welcome back to school. Hope you all had a great week. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through chapters 1 to 3 of Nicomachean Ethics, Book 1. And this is going to be, we're going to go through chapters 1 through 5 this week. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. I know with, um, I know with philosophy, it can be a little more difficult for you to understand. So I'm going to take a little bit more time as we go through here. Please, if you have your printout, have it out, follow along, read along, annotate with me. I'll go slow enough so that you can do that. And let's go ahead and just start. So you're going to go for second page. We'll start here. All right, Aristotle and the Nicomachean Ethics, Book 1, Chapter 1. For every skill and every inquiry, and similar every action and rational choice is thought to aim at some good. What Aristotle's saying here is that everything we do, every skill we get, every inquiry, every question we ask, is thought to aim at some good. In other words, there's a reason, right? We ask for a reason. And that reason is the good, right? So the good has been aptly or accurately described at that which everything aims. So everything, according to Aristotle, aims at the good. But it is clear that there is some difference between ends, or the ends meaning like the result of things. Some ends are activities, like learning how to shoot a basketball, while others are products, which are additional to the activities, like being a good basketball player. In cases where there are ends additional to the actions, the products are by their nature better than the activities. So what he's saying here is that if you have something like becoming a good basketball player, that is better than learning how to shoot a basketball, because the activity aims towards the thing that is additional. It's better. Okay, by their very nature, they're better than the activities. So we do activities so that we can accomplish things and maybe become things. Since there are many actions, skills, and sciences, it happens that there are many ends as well. All right, so many different ends. We'll have some examples here. The end of medicine is health, right? It's good to practice medicine, but the reason why you practice medicine is so that you get healthy. That of shipbuilding, well, to build a ship. That of military science, victory. And that of domestic economy, or basically learning how to do business, wealth. So you can see here that we have activities, right? Like practicing medicine, shipbuilding, right? Practicing military science and learning how to conduct business, but the end is what we're shooting for: health, a ship, victory, and wealth. But when any of these actions, skills, or sciences comes underneath a single faculty, in other words, one big umbrella, you can almost think of a big umbrella here with faculty. This is a terrible umbrella, okay? A faculty means something comes under it, as bridle making and other sciences concerned with equine, that's horse equipment, come under the science of horsemanship, and horsemanship itself under the action of warfare. Okay, back then that was part of warfare, horsemanship. We think about that less, okay? And warfare under military science, and others similarly come under others. Then in all these cases, the end of the master science is more worthy of choice than the ends of the subordinate sciences. So the master science, so let's say you learn bridle making so that you can make equine equipment, but you make that so that you can go be a good horseman, and you make a horseman so that you can win at war. You can see there's a progression here, right? It goes from one to the next, okay? And it's progression as it goes down, okay? So basically you could say in a way that bridle making, zoom in a little bit, oh, I just totally jumped. bridle making, right? If you go down enough, you could say that, it can help you win wars. Right? So if you look at that, then that's what he's saying. It's just saying that we keep doing one thing for the next thing and the next thing. All right, because the latter ends are pursued for the sake of the former. That's what we just said. In other words, you pursue bridle making, ultimately, I guess you could make the argument to win wars if you go through enough steps. Okay? So, and it makes no difference whether the ends of the actions are the activities themselves or something else additional to them, as the sciences just mentioned. In other words, the very end could be an action, supposedly, or one of the higher ends could be an action. All right, moving on to the next one. So that's chapter 1. All he's doing in chapter 1 is he's setting up this idea that we do things for bigger purposes. Now he kind of gives it away here, okay? He says we do it for the good. But what we're trying to figure out is, what is the good? What is the good? Okay? Is the good winning wars? Is the good riding horses? Is the good becoming the best basketball player in the world? What is the good? All right, chapter 2. So if what is done has some end that we want for its own sake, right? We do these because we want something, because we just want it. And everything else is for the sake of this end. You guys are all thinking happiness right now, aren't you? Maybe. We'll see. I know a lot of you guys are thinking that, okay? And if we do not choose everything for the sake of something else, in other words, you can't just keep saying, I choose this for this for this, because at some point you have to say, I choose this because of this, right? And he clarifies, because this would lead to an infinite progression. In other words, it never end, making our desire fruitless and vain. Which some people have said that desire is fruitless and vain, if you look at some philosophers. But Aristotle obviously does not believe this. Then clearly this will be the good. So if you can get to the thing that you don't pursue for something else, then that will be the thing that is the good. Indeed, the chief good. Surely then, knowledge of the good must be very important for our lives. And if, like archers, we'll talk about this with the golden mean a little bit, we have a target, and are we not more likely to hit the right mark? If so, we must try at least to roughly to comprehend what it is and which science or faculty it's concerned with. So he's going to try and help us figure out what the good is and how we can possibly pursue it. Knowledge of the good would seem to be of the concern of the most authoritative science, of the highest master science. So now he's comparing the good with science. In other words, science here meaning, okay, viewing data and how we spell analyzing wrong. All right, viewing data and analyzing. In other words, if we look at information or evidence, okay, data could be evidence, and you pursue it to the end, this is like the cave, then this would be the good. And this is all obviously the science of politics, because it lays down which of the scientists there should be in cities, and which each class of persons should learn up and to what level. So just like Plato, okay, politics to Aristotle is the most authoritative. And we see that even the most honorable faculties, remember, faculties is like the umbrella again, right? That things fall under, okay? Such as military, science, domestic economy, and rhetoric. Rhetoric is arguing, come under it. Since political science employs the other sciences and also lays down laws about what we should do and refrain from, its end will include the end of the others and therefore be the human good. So what Aristotle's doing is he's taking the argument from chapter 1 and saying that there's a progression. And he's saying that political science, okay, down here at the very bottom, is political science. Okay, because it includes all these other sciences. But then, even further down, one more is going to, if you figure out why you have good political science, or the end of political science, okay, so the end is the good. You can agree with that or agree with that. Some of us hate politics, okay, because it's just arguing sometimes. But what Aristotle is saying is that if you can figure out, okay, the end of political science right here, that will be the human good. For even the good is the same for the individual as for the city. That of the city is obviously a greater or more complete thing to obtain and preserve. For while the good of the individual is a desirable thing, what is good for people and for cities is a nobler and more godlike thing. Definitely highlight that word godlike. That's important here. Our inquiry then is a kind of political science, since these are the ends it is aiming at. So what he's saying here is he's acknowledging something that actually a lot of religions and a lot of people groups have acknowledged in their belief systems. The idea that, yeah, while you pursuing what's good for you is important, what's good for society is even more important, okay? And I'm just going to be frank with you. This is when I tease you guys about the UBU, boo generation, this is what I tease you guys about. Because we are so focused on the good of the individual in our society. But Aristotle is saying that the good, let me make this a little bigger. Okay. The good of many. It's kind of weird. Maybe the good for many is more noble than the good for one. And there's a little secret here. Note here that he says this. For even if the good is the same for the individual of the city, right? That of the city is obviously greater. But then if you go back even further, he says, its end will include the ends of others and will therefore be the human good. So what he's saying here is that actually if you pursue the good of many, then that's actually what's good for you. There's a little bit of moral ethics here that he's trying to sneak in there on you. Saying that actually you are happiest, or the good is the best for you, or you're pursuing the good most when you are pursuing the good for other people. All right, let's finish up with chapter 3. Our account will be adequate if its clarity is in line with the subject matter. Okay, so he's saying, let's make this clear. Of course, he's saying it in a complicated way. Because the same degree of precision is not to be sought in all discussions, any more than the works of craftsmanship. In other words, you got to understand, sometimes you have to be more precise, sometimes you have to be less precise. It matters what you're talking about. The spheres of what is noble and what is just, which political science examines, admit a great deal of diversity and variation, so they seem to exist only by convention and not by nature. What he's saying here is that if you like try and like say this is the good thing to do, there's always going to be a situation in politics, it seems, that is not the best thing to do. Okay? So you kind of have to, he says that you kind of have to be a little more flexible when you're discussing politics. Goods vary in this way as well, since it happens that, for many, good things have harmful consequences. So, we've talked about lying in our class, and generally speaking, I think the class said that lying is bad. But then we said, are there circumstances where lying can be good? And some of you said yes. Some of you still maintain no. How about money? Is money good? Is having the money to feed your family and do stuff, is that good? Yes. But then he says this, some people have been ruined by wealth. So in other words, there are times when wealth is bad. We say courage is good, but sometimes courage ruins people. So depending on the circumstance, things can be good or bad. So we should be content, or we should be okay with the idea that since we are discussing things like these in such a way to demonstrate the truth sketchily and in outline, because we are making generalizations on the basis of generalizations to draw conclusions along the same lines. So he's going to say, listen, we're going to just do a general outline. We're not, what I'm going to say here, you might be able to find one very precise situation that disproves it for that one situation. But in general, the good is going to be this. Indeed, the details of our claims, then, should be looked at in the same way, since it is a mark of an educated person to look in each area only for that degree of accuracy that the nature of the subject permits. So if you're trying to find loopholes and everything, you'll probably find it. But if you look and say, yes, generally that makes sense, then that's what he's saying we should do. Accepting from a mathematician claims that are mere probability seems rather like demanding logical proofs from a rhetorician. That's just him saying that mathematics is much more precise and rhetorical. I'm not going to go into that paragraph because you could go into that a little bit. But what he's basically saying is that the nature of what we're studying mandates or makes it so that we have to allow a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, this last part I think you'll like or you'll hate. We'll see. Each person judges well what he knows and is a good judge of this. Right? You boo. Hey, you know what makes you feel good. Do you know what makes you feel bad? But do you always? Do you sometimes eat the candy and feel bad afterwards? So in any subject, the person educated is a good judge of that subject. And the person educated in all subjects is a good judge without qualifications. In other words, if you understand all subjects, you're obviously going to understand that single subject better, right? Because you are able to relate that single subject to all subjects. So, chocolate is yummy. You understand that. But if you are educated as to the contents of that chocolate, then you understand it is not always good to eat chocolate. You need to eat other things to keep your body healthy. All right, here's the part you're going to like. This is why a young person is not fitted to hear lectures on political science, since our discussions begin from and concern the actions of life, of which he has no experience. How do you like that? Okay, so you know what, kids? Have no place to discuss political science. What? I kind of disagree with him here. But let's keep talking, see what he has to say. Again, this is because of his tendency to follow his feelings. My 6-year-old was following her feelings a lot this morning. It was difficult for her to get over her feelings, over the way that her oatmeal looked. Okay? His studies will be useless and with no purpose, since the end of the study is not knowledge but action. It makes no difference whether he's young in years or juvenile in character. In other words, Age has nothing, him calling you young has nothing to do with your age. It has everything to do with your character or attitude. Since the deficiency, the part that's not enough, is not related, has nothing to do with his age, but occurs because of his living and engaging with each of his pursuits according to his feelings. So we could rephrase this here. Youth equals a person who is ruled by their feelings. What? Okay? Youth is a person who is ruled by their feelings. Get a little bit of Plato here, right? Logic, reason, over emotion. For knowledge is a waste of time for people like this, just as it is for those without self-restraint. If you can't control yourself, you can have all the knowledge in the world. You can be like, I know this is wrong, but I can't help myself, right? But knowledge of the matters that concern political science will prove very beneficial to those who follow reason, both in shaping their desires and in acting. Let these comments about the student and how our statements are to be taken and the task we set ourselves serve as our preamble. Preamble is the introduction. Okay, we are done with this section. But I want you guys to think about this last paragraph a little bit. We've talked about this idea that we do things for the end goal, and that the end goal is the good, and that political science is kind of incorporates all of the other master sciences underneath it. And so the end of political science would be the good. Do you guys agree with that? Also, do you guys agree that a person who is ruled by their feelings has no place to study political science? Do you agree with that? I want you guys to think about that because that's going to come up in your WDP for the week. All right? Have a wonderful time.